Good afternoon, good evening, Maverick traders. This is Rob Reinhold. It is August 23rd, and this is the currency recap. So there's good days in Forex trading, and then there's not so good days in Forex trading. This was one of those not so good days in Forex trading. We didn't really see a lot of the major trends extend themselves. We're starting to see a little bit of bear rallies and bull pullbacks, which just aren't as good as trading environment. So let's get into what we're going to talk about in this session. We're going to review the day. We're going to go through the movements of the day, some of the news. We're going to take a look at the current market, where we are. We're going to score every currency. And then, as always, we're pairing up the strongest and the weakest currencies for our trades and look for setup points.
Disclaimer. This video was created for professional Forex and crypto traders. Maverick Currencies is a proprietary trading firm that employs professional traders around the world. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits they generate. All trades and analysis in this video are for professional traders only. If you are interested in becoming a professional Forex and currency trader for Maverick, click the apply button in the video description. Let's break down what happened today.
So let's get into the actual numbers and some of the movements that happened. This is where we were last night. So last night, Wanaka took you through the daily recap. Basically, there wasn't a whole lot going on last night. We had weakness in cryptos. They had a nice bounce back today. We had weakness in euro. We got some euro news that kept it weak. But there wasn't a ton of movement. So we'll go through this movement, but let's break down the numbers here and take a look at the news of the day. We got weak Eurozone and weak UK manufacturing numbers. So we saw some pullbacks in what had been some of the stronger currencies. Euro, pound, and Swiss franc all had more of a pullback today. Now, they had a little bit of one yesterday, and they had a little bit more of one today. We also saw the U.S. bond yields pull back. We had raced up to like 4.35, 4.38, I think was the high it made, and now we're all the way back down to 4.2 on the U.S. bond yield, which caused the U.S. dollar to sell off, which caused the U.S. stock market to rocket higher. If we take a look at the movements in currencies today, you can see that the pound was the weakest currency, followed by the dollar. Pound had some bad news, and dollar just gave it back because of the drop in the bond yield. The Aussie was the best performing currency, and the Aussie has been the worst performing currency, so it's getting a bounce as we're getting a little bit of a risk-on move here. The one abnormality here is the yen. Remember, we talked about the yen and we said, hey, it does not look like a good short anymore. We don't like shorting yen. On a day where the stock market was up over 1%, to have the yen up is telling you a story that that yen is no longer a short. I'm not saying it's a long, I'm just saying it is no longer a short here. Kiwi was also positive, but everything else pretty close to the flat line. These weren't real big moves today across the board. The bigger moves were in some of the other asset classes. The stock market was up well over 1%, crypto up 2.5%, gold up 1%, that's a big move on gold, and oil gave some ground back. So the movements were more likely in other markets, not in Forex. And you can see Bitcoin Cash had a big 5% jump up. Everything else with moderate gains, 1.5%, 2.5% for Ethereum and Bitcoin. So where does that leave us in this market? We're now at close to like a -1 in our risk off. If you remember last week, we had gone from a 0 to basically a -2. Before that, we were at a +3, then we went down to a +2, +1. So as the market has weakened, we have said, okay, it's more of a risk off area. That being said, take a look at this bounce that we're having in the S&P. We're getting a nice bounce all the way up to this resistance point. I called that we were likely to see a bounce up to this point. It's 44.40. Here is the question. What happens from here? This was a pretty strong close. We closed pretty much at the high of the day, right at resistance. Tomorrow, I bet we get like a doji. I bet we get some pattern here like a doji. And then Friday, we do have some big testimony from Chairman Powell at the Jackson Hole Symposium. And that's where we either break out to the upside or turn down. So tomorrow, I'm really expecting there to be a pretty mellow day tomorrow before the Jackson Hole Symposium. And let's talk about that Jackson Hole Symposium because as you can see, there's nothing on the schedule for Thursday. And then on Friday, we have Chairman Powell speaking at 10:05. I think this market is going to be pretty quiet until 10:05 on Friday. I am not looking to be very active over the next 36 hours until we start to hear some stuff from Powell that's likely to move the markets. But let's go in and check all the currencies. Let's go take a look at some of the ones that moved today and take a look at their technical analysis. Would having more trading capital help you meet your trading goals? Maverick Currencies is the oldest US-based Forex and crypto prop firm. We fund traders just like you with 5- and 6-figure accounts where you keep 70 to 80% of profits. Click the apply link on the top right of this video to start the process. This will take you to a 4-minute video that explains the trader position, and you can read a list of FAQs that answer pretty much all the basic questions you have. After that, if you're interested, fill out an application, and then you'll watch the full-length recruiting video and schedule an interview with our recruiters. Are you our next trader? Now, we talked about how the cryptos did have a little bounce, and I want to show you a 4-hour chart on Bitcoin. As you can see here, we had a big fall. So yeah, Bitcoin was up 1.5% today, but nothing has really changed on this chart other than it's no longer on death's door. It actually has a little bit of life. There is nothing on a daily chart that tells me I want to go long in any of the cryptos. So let's ignore the cryptos. I want to go to this dollar. On a 4-hour chart here, you can see that the dollar was having a nice high base, a really nice high base pattern. And then you can see that we basically broke down below the bottom of that base. We've got a lot of starting to be negative sentiment here. 13 EMA is now sloping downward. We've broken down below parabolic SAR. RSI is down to 40. So I think we have to basically take the dollar off of the strong list. It's not on the weak list necessarily, but is no longer on the strong list. But in the short term, there is more momentum to the downside than momentum to the upside. Let's also take a look at the pound. The pound did about the same thing. You can see here we had this base. We broke down at the bottom of the base, and we came all the way back down to support. So the pound is also showing some more weakness here. We had a couple currencies really looking strong in the first part of the week. We talked about euro, pound, dollar, and Swiss franc all being strong, and here we are. We take a look at euro, it's not strong. We take a look at Swiss franc, it's flat, but it's not strong. So the currencies that we had as +2s, +3s on our trend score, they've all had pullbacks this week. So here's the big question. They've all had pullbacks. The things that were weak, like Aussie and Kiwi, they've had little bounces. The question is this a reversal, or is this just a bear rally, what we want to take positions in? And the answer to that is, I don't know. So here's where we were last night. I'm going to move the cryptos up to don't even be interested in them from don't be interested in them. Not a big change. We saw the dollar slip a little bit, and we saw the pound slip a little bit. And we saw the Aussie strengthen. This is still not a great velocity score. We just don't have a lot to compare against. If we had to make a trade here, which we don't, but if we had to, it would be Aussie long and maybe Kiwi long against pound, dollar, euro short. Here's the problem. On daily charts, these are all counter trend trades. So if you're into counter trend trading, you want to try to get in there, let's go ahead and pair up things like pound Aussie, Aussie dollar, euro Aussie. If you don't like counter trend trading, let's just wait for this to settle out and make trades on Friday. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to look at the Aussie, but I want to take a look at which is the weakest. Is it pound, dollar, or euro that's the weakest? And all I need to do is pair these up. Let's take a look at pound dollar. Pound dollar on a 4-hour chart is basically sideways. Like the pound is no weaker than the dollar and vice versa. Let's take a look at euro versus dollar. As you can see here, the euro is slightly weaker than the dollar. We have been seeing the euro slightly weaken. So if pound and dollar are equal and euro is weaker than dollar, we also know that the euro is weaker than the pound. So the correct trade should be based on relative strength and weakness. If you are going to make a trade, it should be euro Aussie on the short side. And when I pull up the chart, I don't like it. I don't like this trade at all. We've had this big pullback, which is good. Lots of downward momentum, but we are running headlong into major support here. It's just not a good entry point. Look, sometimes there's just not a good trade to be had, and I think that is one of those days this week. Instead of going through chart by chart, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to encourage anyone to trade. The right decision here is to not trade, wait until Friday. If you are going to trade, it's all counter trend trading on the daily chart right here. So understand what you're doing, get in, get out, grab your pips, and don't stay very long. If you aren't into that game, then we just stay out until Friday. That is the currency recap. Thanks for joining me. Goodbye, everyone.